Hello, everyone. I am so excited to introduce my guest today, Laura Belgray. Laura is the founder of Talking Shrimp, co-creator of The Copy Cure, and author of Tough Titties on living your best life when you're the effing worst. Ugh, so good. An award-winning copywriting expert, she helps entrepreneurs find the perfect words to express and sell what they do in a way that gets them paid to be themselves. Through her work with hundreds of clients, including online biggies like Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield, and Laura, you're that too, you know. She's seen firsthand that putting you into your copy and all through your business is pure magic for getting people to love you up, share your ideas, and happily click your buy button. Yes. In addition to online types, Laura's list of clients and credits include NBC, Bravo, HBO, TBS, Fandango, so many more. If you watch TV and don't skip the commercials, you've probably seen her on air. Tough Titties, her first book, published via Hachette, is available now, and it's the reason you're here. So, Laura, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Pia. It is a delight. Thank you.
So, I thought we should start with the elephant in the room. For anyone who knows you and has been following you, I feel like it's safe to say that we all think you're the fucking best. So if I may fangirl for a second, I love your writing so much. Whenever I need to write emails, I go search your name in my inbox and I just kind of read through some of your stuff because it inspires me. It kind of gets me out of that first level writing. Over the years, I bought many of your little courses and PDFs, all of them incredibly valuable. One of them in particular, I don't know if you're still selling this. It was like a $97 PDF. That was just loaded with examples. It was gold.
Yes.
It was
60-minute
worth so
makeovers.
Much. Yes, 60-minute
makeovers. It is
so
still
good.
for sale. Still available.
It is gold. So you're awesome. What gives? tell us all what makes you the effing worst.
Thank you. One reason you might think I'm the best is because, and thank you for that, is because I am real about being the effing worst. And I think that gives hope to people who do not feel like they have their shit together, who feel like they're a bit of a hot mess, who find themselves like I do, often saying, oh God, I'm so sorry, I'm the worst. And so it's not about being a bad person, although at times I've made some maybe ill-conceived choices, like ditching a friend to hang out with a celebrity or dating a married man for 2.5 years who said he wasn't married, but it was pretty clear that he was, and that kind of thing. But also like running late all the time. Still to this day, I try so hard to get on time to so much as a Zoom call and often don't make it. And being late, being unsuited for the straight and narrow path, the up and up and up corporate rise. I mean, I was unsuited for even a week in the corporate world. I couldn't make it to work by 9, much less even 10 a.m., which is when work was supposed to start. And in fact, at my Barnes and Noble event that I did for the launch of Tough Titties, a former coworker of mine was there, and she was one of the people who raised their hand to ask a question. And she said, I want to know where you found the discipline to write a book. Because when we worked together, you were always strolling in at noon, at 1, and we would all say, I think she said 11. I was like, not likely.
Not quite.
Maybe for special occasions. She was like, so, all of us would say, oh yeah, must be nice to be Laura. How do we get to be Laura? I think also they would say, God damn her. Like, why does she get to do that? And so those are some of the many ways in which I think I am kind of the worst. It's low key the worst.
The worst.
Low key doesn't really work in a subtitle. It softens it too much. You want to say effing, but yeah, it's low key the worst.
Got it. Yeah, I think we can all relate to the feeling of anytime you're not doing something that feels like the way you're supposed to do it. Well, I'm the worst, right? I'm the worst because I didn't call you back fast enough.
Yes, exactly. I didn't call you back. I didn't do my paperwork. I have to pay a late fee on this bill, not because I couldn't afford to pay it, but because I just forgot to, or just put off paying it and kept the paperwork on my desk with a coffee cup on top of it. That kind of being the worst.
Are you ADD? Is that too personal? My husband's ADD. Sounds like.
No, it's not too personal at all. It's like after reading my book, many people have suggested to me, you might have ADHD. It
Yeah.
sounds like you have ADHD. And I'm down for that diagnosis.
Hey.
I just haven't gotten it together to like actually go to be evaluated, though I have taken several
Right.
online quizzes
Uh-huh.
and none of them are conclusive. I
Okay.
never, nor any personality tests I ever take. I'm always right in the middle. And I was like, damn it, I'm not even an introvert. So according to online quizzes, I'm not ADHD, but I think it could be, and maybe they're not right. Maybe those are not, doctor endorsed.
Totally. Well, my most creative friends are all have these qualities. So I can see that because you're a writer, right? There's something about the creative brain, whether you
Yeah.
are or not. Well, your book is full of effing worst stories. I love that you quote your husband, Stephen, calling it the loser Sex in the City. Is what
Yes.
he said. That's so good. Definitely share some cringy stories in there. I'm actually super curious where you may or may not have drawn the line. Like, were there some stories where you were like, maybe I'm not going to tell that? Or was it like, no, I'm going to go for it?
I pretty much went for it. There were a few stories that were maybe too dark to publish and like extensions of my time with the married salsa instructor. There were many stories that came out of that, and it was just like, nope, too dark, can't. Um, and trying to think if there, no, most of the things I cut because not because they were too personal, but because they just didn't fit thematically, and I had to find somewhere to cut because I was well over my word count, which was supposed to be 75,000 words, and I had like, 100,000. And so I had to
Right.
find some chunks to leave out. So, but I didn't really draw the line at too personal. There are things that I don't share from my current private life, but anything from my past, I kind of feel like that's a different person. That's a
Right.
character. It's
Right.
not me.
Right.
So I feel free to share those things.
I love it. No, it definitely feels like you're going into the vault and pulling out the
Yeah.
war stories, which is very relatable. You published with Hatchet. Super fancy. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
I'm curious how much oversight they had. Like, you have such a strong voice, and as I was reading it, I was wondering if there was any sort of censorship or if you ever felt like they were trying to water you down. Did they have anything to say about it, or were they just like, do you, Laura? That's what we hired you for. Or that's what we gave you the book deal for.
Yeah, no one ever tried to tone it down. My editor did have a lot to say about the first pile of stuff I handed her, and it was a real rookie mistake. She had asked for a few sample chapters, and I handed her what I didn't do a word count, but what I realized later was 85,000 words, as in 10,000 over what the final book was supposed to be. And she went through it, and it was just not ready for prime time. And so she had a lot to say about it. I kept saying, it's not the manuscript. She kept calling it the manuscript. They're just sample chapters. But I did need to hear what she had to say about it, which was, the voice is all over the place. I don't know what the theme is here. What do you want the theme to be? What is the point of view here? What is the point to this story and that story? What are you trying to say? And I was really offended by that feedback at first. And she said, where is the voice? And I was like, I am voice,
Yeah, right.
girl, please. But then later I saw that, yeah, I think they were plenty voicey, but what she was trying to say was, what is the point? Why are you telling this story? You have to tell us why you're telling this story. So that is where they intervened, but in no way did they say, you've got to, like, you can't go this far. You can't go there. You can't be this revealing. They wanted it all. They were happy with that.
That's great. Yeah, I when you read it, it feels like a collection of essays about your life, but it feels kind of like it effortlessly builds on itself. So nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It feels, I'm saying it because it feels effortless. Like, the theme is there, but it's not, you're not being banged over
No.
the head with it. It's just building through the
Yes,
stories.
right, and which is
Yeah,
what I
which
was
seems hard
hoping for.
to
Yeah,
do.
because I did not want to make this like the book I'm expected to write
Hmm.
in my industry, our industry, the online space
Right.
is an
How to.
expert book, a how-to,
Right.
something with bullet points, something with that ends each chapter with your next steps. Here's
Hmm.
what to do next. Journal prompt. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm not giving any spoon-fed takeaways or journal prompts. This is not that kind of book. I was inspired by David Sedaris's writing and Tina Fey's. And like that was the kind of book I wanted to write that did not feel like a how-to. Nobody was picking it up because it was going to teach them something. They just wanted to be entertained and read it for pleasure.
Yeah, which was such an interesting choice. And it's really you expressing the thing that you're teaching instead of using it as like it does feel like it will be a stepping stone for your business, even though it's not as straightforward. Like, was the decision just because, like, well, listen, this is what I want to write. I don't really feel
Hmm.
like writing the other thing. It's kind of
Yeah.
how your marketing is too, right?
Yes,
So
I
I
don't
guess that
feel
makes
like
sense.
it, so I'm not. That's exactly
You're the
that is
worst,
my,
Laura.
yes, I'm the worst. That is exactly my marketing style. And the hope is, as is with anything I write and put out there in my newsletter, my captions on social, etc., that people will connect with me through the book, that they will respond to the writing. It'll resonate with them. They'll say, oh, I want more of Laura. I want more of this author, more of this narrator, the person in this book. I connect with them. And then they'll come investigate my site and come into my world, my honey trap, and become part of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Yeah, one thing I love about your writing is I feel like you just pull the best references in your stories.
Thank you.
It's those little details, often a bit obscure, but when you get them, you feel so in the know. It reminded me a little bit of Chuck Klosterman. I don't know if you're familiar.
Mm,
Like most of his references go over my head, but when I get them, I feel
right.
very cool, and I feel very cool. It feels very personal to me, and I had that experience over and over again in your book. It's also something I'm always trying to explain and teach to my students about their writing as kind of a way to bring it to life and connect. And then sometimes I wonder if my references, I'm going to ask you for a little coaching right here.
Okay.
Sometimes I wonder if my references are maybe so obscure that I'm going to lose people. Like, for example, like literally anytime anyone says something mean, in my head, I'm like, oh, that's way harsh, Ty. And to me, that's a very obvious reference for anyone who grew up with Clueless, but it
Uh-huh.
probably wouldn't even register with someone who didn't. And so I was just curious, how do you decide when something is too obscure or you don't care or you're not even thinking about this?
Yeah, I would say like in an email,
Mm-hmm.
I might use something like that. That's way too harsh, Ty. Or
Mm-hmm.
I used to have at the bottom. I don't think I still do anymore because it's so dated. But I used to have a thing around the unsubscribe, like you signed up for this, that but you can say bye Felicia anytime you want and
I remember
click
that.
unsubscribe, right? Yeah, and like that's in the tiny print at the bottom, and I don't mind if people are like, what's by Felicia, who's Felicia, and don't know that it's from Fridays. But I think that in a book, in something that's going out to a wider audience, you need to explain some of the references. Like you don't have to explain, say, the name of the supermarket. You can say, and I feel like brand names, names of stores, that kind of thing gives it grip, gives it concrete detail that
Mm.
doesn't lose anyone. It just makes it feel more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say at I went to A&P and bought a raw chicken, people will know A&P is a grocery store. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll know it's a supermarket, or you might say A&P supermarket. But using an expression from a movie that not everyone knows, that's not super obvious,
Mm-hmm.
can lose them a little bit. It does not necessarily make it more specific and therefore more universal, which is what the details do. Like them, just
Yeah.
so there is a saying. I don't know who said it first, but it is. true, that the more specific you make something, the more universal it becomes. So you don't have to worry about, oh, this is too specific, this world that I'm showing, that I'm creating. The more specific it is, the more people will relate to it, even though it's not their experience.
Especially maybe, I mean, this is my experience, like I said, with Chuck Klosterman's references that are so specific to like music world that I don't know anything about, but you get what they're saying. So sometimes
Yes.
you don't get the reference, but you know what the reference is supposed to imply. And so you're like, I
Yes,
kind of get the reference.
exactly. If you know what it's supposed to imply, then you're good. If people have no idea, if it feels like a foreign language, that's when you lose people.
Okay, good note. Taking note. So I want to talk a little bit about the first chapter. Well, you talk about a lot of people in this book, and you talk about them with their names, and then like you started the book with this chapter about some girl in high school who made your life hell, and now you're not so secretly happy that she's so basic and lame, and basically you've had all this success. And it was so real and cringy and all the things you're not supposed to say, but we all think to some degree. I was a little disappointed at the end of the chapter when you said you changed her name. Probably a good thing.
Yes.
I was curious if these stories are specific enough that the people you're referencing or people you grew up with, like, absolutely know who you're talking about.
Well, I have heard that there are discussion threads from my old school
I bet.
about who the person is. To me, to people in my grade, I think
Uh-huh.
it's pretty obvious.
Uh-huh.
I did change a few details per legal, like that. So there's a
Really?
legal person at Hachette who I had to talk to several times who was like, okay, listen, this person that you're describing in that chapter, who's called Deb Fishbone, it's the chapter is called Deb Fishbone Likes This, and it's about how all I see of her in my feed when I hate friended her, hate followed her on social media, and would just see all I would see of her was Deb Fishbone Likes This above major retailers. And he said, well, first of all, I've looked her up, the real one, the real person, and she's from a very litigious family. She and her father have sued each other. And
Oh,
so I would be very careful about her. And so I changed certain details about her, identifying details like what she does for a living. It's
yeah,
similar, but it's not the same.
right.
And so she can't say, you've made it absolutely obvious this is me, and it defamed me, especially because I have the word bullying in there. Right? So
Right.
I can't, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. I mean, it's such a relatable, like those deep things that most people don't want to think about or admit, but we've all hate followed people. I think you'd be lying if you didn't hate follow people. Yeah. It was just fascinating to like read that and be like, oh man, I would be terrified to write this in the
Yeah.
public.
Yeah, that one, it did make me nervous. Like
Did it?
I am actually nervous about something that doesn't affect me at all, which is the idea of her reading it and knowing it's her and hating on me, or I don't know,
Right.
chatting with other people I went to school with who weren't very nice to me then either. That doesn't affect me. It doesn't matter, but it still made me cringe a little bit, like, ugh, I don't want her to do that. But I felt like it was such a relatable story that I owed it to the people. I wanted it in my book, and I wanted to write about it. So yeah, it does make me a little nervous. And there are people who I never expected to be aware of the book even, or much less read it, who have
From your past?
from my past, who are featured in it.
Oh,
Not
this
in,
stuff gets
yeah,
around, Laura. I
yes,
think everybody's like had to
right,
seen Laura's
yes.
book. Yeah.
And they're in there in, like, not in terrible ways, but still in ways where
Sure.
I'm like, "Ugh, I don't really want them to to know it's them. I hope they don't. They
I
so far identified themselves.
well, I feel like in this day and age with social media and just the
Yeah.
fact that we see people more, so even if you don't ever talk to them, you see them, so they're more top of mind. I feel like anybody mentioned in this book, it's going to get to it's going to get
Yeah.
or even just partially. I mean, every book, that people from my high school have read, like I'm aware of it because
Right.
it's exciting. It's
Yeah.
big. I know that person, right? Which kind of brings me to, there's so many gems in this book. The Starfuckers chapter.
Mhm.
I had a similar experience in the 90s with Pauly Shore, who wanted to shop with me and my friends down Broadway,
Holy
even though
sure.
we were 16, and he and his friends were happy to like shop with us. But we were happy to oblige because,
Yeah.
fame.
Yeah, fame. Pauly Shore. It doesn't
Pauly
get better
Shore.
than
It was
that.
so
More
cool.
A-list.
And also creepy. It was creepy at the time, but
Yeah.
also, right.
Also thrilling.
But also thrilling. And you hit all the notes on that feeling. Will you tell us a little bit about that story? And I'm curious if that feeling has changed at all now that you've achieved a certain level of fame.
Yeah, so my two friends, Vic and Stephanie, their real names are used in the book with permission. We were on a trip together and having brunch in this little cafe, and Vic, who was in film school, was like, "Oh my God, don't look now, but that's right over there at that table is Martin Scorsese." And it's not Martin Scorsese, that's the name that I use in the book, but we'll pretend that it is. And she's like, I just wrote a paper on him and his films in film school. I love him so much. He's the best. And we're like, go over there, go say something. She's like, okay, I'm going to. And then she's like, oh shoot, he's giving his order. Oh shoot, he's deep in conversation. No, I can't do it now. They just brought their food. And she was doing that the whole meal until he was gone. He had just disappeared when she was finally ready. And so she was like, it just goes to show when you have an opportunity, you have to go for it. And then we left the restaurant and he was sitting there on a park bench right across from the restaurant. And we're like, okay, now's your shot. So she went over and she was like, hi, Mr. Scorsese. I'm so sorry I was staring at you all through the meal. And he was like, oh, well, I was staring at you, all three of you, and wondering if you were sisters. And then he offered to take us on a tour of his office that was nearby and took us, like, we walked through the neighborhood with him. Everyone was like, buongiorno, Signor Scorsese. And, there was like
So
celebrities
fun.
like, yoo-hoo, Marty. And we had this thrilling day with him, which was kind of weird because he was an older guy and with some old-fashioned opinions. And we were kind of like, why are we so enchanted by him? But he was so powerful. And so we spent the whole day with him, blew off a date that we were supposed to have at a friend's parents. They had like put out, it turns out, like a cheese board and wine and drinks for us and everything. We didn't have cell phones then, so I didn't know how to reach them.
Uh-huh.
And so, blew them off to be in the company of this director who we didn't think we'd ever see again, but he took our contact info. And then a month or so later, I get a call like midnight from this crackling phone, which was a car phone. And it's like, Laura? Like, yes. It's like, it's me, Marty. I'm in New York. Would you three like to have dinner with me? I was like, now? Um, it's a little late. I was in bed on the Upper
Mm-hmm.
West Side, in my childhood bedroom on the Upper West Side. And, but he said, well, then how about Wednesday? And he took us to dinner it was like, we couldn't believe that he got in touch with us. And he took us to dinner at Raoul's, which is this institution in New York.
And you're like,
Yeah, we went to a
yeah.
fashion week party with him, which was awkward because we kind of felt like we were babysitting our uncle, like brought
Uh-huh.
our uncle to a mosh pit. And then B Bar, it was Bowery Bar back then, like hit all the hot spots with him. And then he managed to get us back to his hotel room, his hotel apartment at the Carlisle. He kept promising, like, I have SpectraVision back at the Carlisle. I have over 200 channels, cable channels. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, no thanks. But he managed to get us back there. And my friends were both very interested in possibilities that might come out of the connection. My
Mm.
friend Stephanie was an actress at the time and thought maybe, who knows, might cast her in a role. Victoria, film school student. Me, I was just starting to work in TV promos and I was writing countdown scripts for VH1, like top 20 countdowns. And so I didn't really need his help with that, but I thought he might see something in me, like discover me, say, you
Mm.
know what the world needs is for you to do this. And I thought he would just tell me what to do with my life that would channel, like tap my talent, channel my greatness, and make me a wonderkind. And so we put up with him for an awkward evening of cuddling on a bed and him saying, I need a girl to hug. We kept
Oh my
taking
God.
turns, the
That
three
part
of us.
really creeped
Yes,
me out.
it was so creepy. He blew in my ear. We kept taking turns not being on the bed with him. Like, I got to go to the
Uh-huh.
bathroom. And he'd say, I need a girl to hug. Like he wanted a girl on each side of him.
Yeah.
And we crept out of the apartment. But it was, the whole time it was like, we're with a celebrity. We cannot give up this chance to be with this celebrity, even though it was creepy. He
Yeah.
was way too old for us to be hanging out with and cuddling on the bed. And so, yeah, that's that chapter in a long nutshell.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just goes to show. I mean, just I could relate to this feeling, especially you're in your 20s during that, or you're even
Yes.
younger. You're
No,
in
I
your
was
early
20,
20s.
25,
You're
mid 20s.
25. Yeah, like this feeling in your 20s where it's like there's power and opportunity around you, but you don't quite have any of it, but you
Yes.
want it.
You want someone to confer that stardom and power on you. And I think at any age we can feel like being around a celebrity or being liked by a celebrity makes us special and gives us this sort of, I don't know, sparkle.
Right.
Yeah, with their
Like I'm
magic wand.
osmosis special.
Hmm.
That actually reminds me of one of my favorite chapters in your book. Do you mind if I read it? It's not too
No.
long. This is the chapter about you doing this gig job. You're like not trying too hard to build your career. You're just hoping it'll kind of happen. You end up with doing this short-term gig with this woman, Lisa.
Yes.
And here it is. I'm going to read this part to you.
Okay.
Lisa saw promise in my little nuggets. When my father came to meet me for lunch, she told him, "We love Laura here." And then the sentence that spoke right to my soul: "We've got to find a way to tap her talent." That, right there, that's what I wanted, what I'd been waiting for someone or something to come along and tap my talent. I I laughed out loud when I read this the first time and immediately called my husband in and said, I have to read this to you. And there is something so poignant about that phrase, about this section. I feel like we all have that feeling, especially in kind of the early 20s. It's like, we're so smart, we're so special, but like the jobs open to us are kind of shit. And like, I hope somebody can see how important and valuable and like full of light I am. It also made me laugh out loud because it reminded me of like all my like little cousins and stuff, like all these younger people around me. I'm like, they're all just waiting for their talent to be tapped.
Yes.
What would you say, because you're talking about a story from a little while ago, what would you say to people who are feeling like that right now? Do you feel like your talent ended up getting tapped, or did you have to tap it yourself, or what?
Yeah, I do. I think I had to tap it myself. I've always waited for somebody to pinpoint right up to the writing of this book, through the writing of this book. Like, tell me what's great about this. Tell me what you're getting from it. Help me pull it out. Like, help me describe it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's best about it. And I've always kind of done that with my own self. Like I've hired people to, when I got into the online world, there were people you could, get a coaching session with, and there still are, who I thought maybe they'll tell me what's special about me and how I can channel it, how I can tap it. But all along the way, anytime I have tapped into it and channeled it into something worthwhile and something that pays, it's been because I spotted the opportunity. I spotted something I wanted to do and I did it. And so the TV job I get in a following chapter, where next level dream job in Tough Titties, when I discover promo writing. I mean, that came out of a conversation. Like I had lunch with somebody I had worked with at Spy, where my talent wasn't completely tapped. Spy was the magazine I worked at after I worked, where Lisa, who wanted to tap my talent, brought me as an intern. And I was a terrible intern, but then discovered copyright. I was given one great copywriting assignment that I felt my talent. And then later had a conversation with somebody I had met there, my friend Adam, who said he was writing TV promos. And I was like, what are TV promos? And he said, well, I watch a lot of TV, and then I write those spots during the commercials that are for the network itself or for the shows. And I was like, so you watch a ton of TV and then write little things, like funny little things? That's a
Perfect.
job. I need that job. And I went and got that job. So yeah, it was always up to me to tap my talent. And it was through doing this and that and saying yes to opportunities rather than sleeping through them, rather than saying, no, that's not going to tap my talent. No, that's not going to be a dream job. That's not going to be perfect for me. I at least did them. Sometimes I got fired within 6 months, or sometimes I kind of flunked at them, but they always led to something that did tap my talent in a certain way. And then in this phase of my business or my career, having a business and writing emails that are the engine of the business, like writing stories in these emails to a list of people who then buy things, that is, to me, that is the pinnacle of tapping my talent and getting paid to be me. Yeah.
How lucky that you came of age when these
Yes.
emails was such a became a thing, right?
Yeah, well, it's like they were not a thing when I was coming of age. It depends what you call coming of age. If you call my,
Right.
mid to late 40s coming of age, yes, that's when they
Fair
were a
enough.
thing. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, you've cornered the market in the email game, in my opinion. Your book launch has been really impressive too. Congratulations on that. You've got
Thanks.
kind of this constant feed updates on your socials. You've got lots of emails that are all fun to read and are all kind of reminding us, grab a copy, write a review, which I did. I see hundreds
Thank
of
you.
others did too.
Yeah.
Congrats on that. That's a big push. I'm always telling people whether they get it published or self-publish it, it's like the reviews are everything,
So hard.
such a slog. And then you had parties, what seemed like for days, for
Yes.
the launch week. Can you tell us a little bit about what went into that? Like behind the scenes, did your publisher help you at all? Can you shed some light on like what it even took to make all this happen?
Well, the publisher did set up the Barnes and Noble event. Other than that, but I had to bring in the conversation partner, who was my friend Marie Forleo. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have even, I don't think, bothered to go to a store. It was like, well, come up with someone you want to be in conversation with, who will be impressive enough for the bookstore to say yes, and
Oh,
we
okay.
will set it up for you.
Awesome.
Otherwise, it is all on the author. Everybody told me that. So I can't say it's the thing nobody tells you about publishing. Everyone tells you. Every author tells you. I think when I signed my agency agreement to be represented by this agency, they said in their letter, their engagement letter to me, selling this book will be on you. And so everyone tells you that, and it's absolutely true. It is all on you to arrange everything. I was very lucky to have, for instance, my friend Marisa Corcoran, who was in Shrimp Club and is an absolute superstar. Shrimp Club is my mastermind, so a few years ago. She's a wonderful person, a brilliant copywriter, and she said, I want to support you and your book, so I'm giving you a party. So I'm terrible at I don't want
Fabulous.
to plan parties. It's not my thing, not my forte. And so I was very lucky to have someone plan a party for me. And then I also had someone helping me with I had two parties. I had one the eve of pub day. So that was a Monday night party. And that one was on me that I footed the bill for it and had a wonderful party planner help me with it, named Marcia Batty. If anyone wants her name, hit me up. She's fantastic. And so
Where was
that
that? It
made
looked like an amazing venue.
it was at the Butterfly Lounge, which is in the 60 Soho Hotel, where my husband Stephen used to be a partner in a restaurant called Sasanta. He opened a restaurant there.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of in the family,
Nice.
and it was the perfect venue and a lot of fun. But I was so stressed about all of it. I was like,
Yeah.
why am I having a party? To what end? Why am I spending so much money? And then I kept having to be reminded it's a celebration. It's a chance for all your friends to come celebrate you and the book. Because I was like, it's not going to sell books. I'm like, no, it doesn't sell books. But the
I think it helps though. I feel like
yeah.
there's a momentum that
Yes.
was built through all the things happening and other people, taking photos and posting about it, and like
Right.
there's kind of a
the buzz.
quality of the buzz that is, you can't quantify the sales, but I'm positive it's there.
Yes, yes. I think for all of these things, it's more the social proof. It's more the
Yes.
what you do with the footage. Always have good photographers and videographers.
Most important.
That
Didn't
is
happen.
Yeah, no, it didn't happen if no one posts about it. And including the Barnes and Noble event, I was told, well, we don't. All authors would tell me your publisher is not going to send you on tour. You will have to pay for anything any travel you do or whatever. They don't believe in it. And sure enough, they said, well, we don't really think live events, like in-person events, move the needle. People don't really want to leave the house, which I think is absolute opposite. People do want to leave the house and gather in person.
Clearly.
But at any rate, what sells books is people seeing the sizzle reel that you had put together later and saying, oh my gosh, this happened. It's a legit book. Everybody's reading it. Everyone had a copy. She was signing copies. So that's what moves the books.
Amazing. I love it. So when I first reached out to you, it was actually because you made one of those perfect Laura insider references in one of your email footers. You specifically referenced Sticky Floors at Deke, which of course paints a very specific picture of an experience that I have also shared with you because we both went to Wesleyan University. All of a sudden I felt like, kindred spirits, and it made me feel like I had to reach out. And then I learned reading your book that, like me, you also have only ever lived in New York except for our little stint in Middletown, which
that's amazing.
I feel like is pretty rare. If you don't mind me take this a little off topic for a moment, do you know a lot of New Yorkers who are in this online entrepreneurial space? Because I don't know any.
No, it's pretty rare.
Why?
New Yorkers, I don't know many New Yorkers. I don't know why. I think that, in a way, I think that New Yorkers might think they're too cool for it. Or it just doesn't occur to them. I don't know. And also not a lot of Jews, which I am. Not a lot of Jews, not a lot of New Yorkers, certainly not. And in New York, you don't meet a lot of born and bred New Yorkers who are still in New York. It's so rare. Where do you live? Where did you grow up? I think I might have asked you.
I grew up in Stuyvesant Town, and I went to Hunter Elementary and high school. So,
oh my gosh,
I was down the street from. You went to Brearley, right?
Yes, I went to Brearley.
Yep.
And the person I mentioned, my friend Adam, who told me what promos were and helped me get a promo job, went to Hunter also many years before you. Yeah, because he's older than me and I'm way older than you. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had some amazing references that I was also like tickled by so many of them. This is not about me, this is about you, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because I can't help it. It made me just giddy. I also took Bartending 101 at Columbia University.
No way.
I specifically remember making flashcards about the Harvey Wallbangers. I remember him saying, like, you'll remember because the wall, like whatever the thing in the wall, is on the top shelf and you bang the wall when you take it out.
Yeah.
Never. I bartended for 8 years. I don't think anyone ever mentioned that drink.
No one ever orders a Harvey Wallbanger.
Or any of the drinks that I memorized.
A long, slow screw against the wall.
Yeah, a long screw. That is so, and it's funny because those are drinks that probably but no, I specifically learned them at the Columbia University 101 class, which I took senior year of high school, which we were super happy that they didn't card and let us drink. I used to go to Lucky Strike all the time because I lived in my friend's controlled apartment down the street in Soho.
Oh, that's so cool.
We went to Lucky Chang's is where I brought the Millennium in with all my friends in 2000. We were at Lucky Chang's.
Wow. We're anticipating Y2K to happen.
Yes, we were anticipating that surrounded by drag queens and a huge chocolate stiletto heel. So just like these little things, frozen hot chocolate at Serendipities was such a specific reference I had forgotten about. I literally stopped and called my friend Sophie up, and because she was always the one who was like, whenever we were like, what do we do? She was like, let's go to Serendipity for frozen hot chocolate. It's like, we can't do that all the time. So she just had a laugh. We had a little giggle about that too. And so, yeah, it was a very New York story. I was past, I think, the Studio 54 age, but the whole story, it just replace it with a different place. You know what I mean? Like, I had the same experiences.
Yeah. What was the club everyone was going to when you were in high school? Like
we
underage?
were going to Sweet and Vicious, which I actually think is still there in Soho.
Might be.
Which I can't believe that these places that like
Was
some of
there
these
also
places are
the
still.
box? Were you in the
The
Lindsay
box.
Lohan age?
I did not go to the box because I remember the
Yeah.
box being very expensive for some
I
reason.
think so. What about
like,
One Oak?
no.
No,
No.
that was the Lindsay. That's where like Lindsay
Lindsay Lohan?
Lohan, when she was out and raging and making trouble, that's where she was accused of stealing
Oh.
somebody's coat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Lindsay.
Oh, Lindsay.
I think as I was in my late teens to like right before 21, the carding got stricter and stricter. So like I remember like we could go out at like 15 to the like we could kind of get in, but by like 18 or 19 it was harder.
Right.
And by
right.
21 we were glad that we were 21 because you couldn't get in anywhere. So it was like happening right around then. We were very much into the dive bars. But just the experience of like going to these places where you're really young and like you're trying to get in and it's like cool and other people are going there. I just like, it was such a New York thing. I don't think a lot of people can relate to that, or maybe they do. It's just in their own ways.
I think they can relate to wanting to be in the cool crowd, wanting to
Yes.
go where the cool people are going, or wanting to be older and hang out with the older people. That wasn't my thing. I wanted to, like, I was in no hurry to look older or anything like that, except for getting into Studio 54 with my friends. But I was kind of in the loser crowd, but I think people can relate to either one or the other. And you see, like all those details that you just mentioned, most people reading the book will have no idea what they are, but they will know what they are.
But they get
I
it.
say
Right.
the place I went, Lucky Strike, my friends and I would go there when, like, after we went to a club late at night and have, spinach with mustard. My friend that like steamed spinach with mustard while our friend ate fries. People will understand what the place was.
Yeah, absolutely. It just felt very classic and of a time, but still universal. I think you nailed it on the head. That the more specific, the more universal it can be. I really like that. Anyway, I had just such a good time reading your book.
Thank you.
In part because it's such a riot, in part because it's so relatable, and because you share relatable stories that I think other people are uncomfortable sharing, which makes it even more relatable. And in part because it just brought up so many memories for me. I felt like it was speaking right to me, which I think is what is so powerful about your writing and your voice.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for writing this. Thank you so much for coming on this show. And to everyone listening, go grab a copy of Tough Titties. Go to talkingshrimp.com/book. You can see all the places it's available. Or if you are like me and refuse to put your credit card information in, you can just go to Amazon and buy it.
Right. It's
basically where I buy everything.
Already filled in. Or you can go to toughtittiesbook.com.
Oh, Tough Titties Book.
It's just
even better.
Easier. It's a redirect to
redirect.
talkingshrimp.com/book, but toughtittiesbook.com will,
I love
take you
it.
right there.
I love it. Any parting words for our listeners? Anything you can recommend? You have to go out and buy this book. Any last parting words of advice to our listeners?
I think my advice is it's pretty rote. You'll hear this from a lot of people, but be you. And I know being yourself is kind of easier said than done. But if you read Tough Titties, you will I think it will motivate you and free you up to be more of who you are. That's something that I've always looked for in people, books, anything I surround myself with. And I think that can come from reading Tough Titties. So, Pia, thank you so much for reading it and for having me on and talking about it. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Laura. And I'll also say you should go buy Laura's courses and mini courses. What was the one that it was called?
60-minute makeovers,
60-minute makeovers.
copywriting mini course. It's the longest name of anything. But
I know. I'll be honest. When I first bought it and it was a PDF, I was like, huh, a PDF? And then it was so incredibly valuable. I was like, oh my gosh, you can do this in a PDF because it's worth its weight in gold.
Thank you.
It will inspire you. All of her stuff will inspire you to kick up your communications a notch. And I think everybody needs that. So,
oh, yes.
So thank you very much, Laura.
Thank you. See you soon.